Revival meetings were, in many ways, the rock concerts of the early 20th century. They were spiritual events, to be sure, but they were also entertainment. Outside observers sometimes compared them to traveling circuses. Under revival tents, preachers sought to breathe new life into supposedly dying forms of American Protestantism. They cajoled and extolled, sweated and sang, and urged Americans to turn from the fires of hell toward the hope of heaven. Attendees cried, laughed, shouted, wailed, fainted, danced, lifted their hands, and carried on with all manner of scandalous practices. Piety and profits were often intertwined. Some revivalists sold lemonade and other refreshments. Many offered merchandise. Attendees purchased souvenirs to mark the occasion, like photographs of famous revival preachers, books that included popular sermons, and songbooks so they could keep the revival fervor going after the meeting ended. Music swelled during the emotional peak of revival meetings, when attendees participated in a powerful ritual marking the conversion from sinner to saint. Preachers invited converts to walk to the front of the gathering and be saved. When revival services were held in church sanctuaries, that moment usually took place in front of the altar. Revival meetings were quite portable, however, and as revivalists crisscrossed the nation, they created ad hoc altar spaces in grange halls, public parks, and campgrounds. Over time, that moment where attendees accepted Jesus Christ came to be known as an altar call. Some of the rowdiest revivals came out of the Holiness movement, a 19th century Christian movement that grew mostly out of Methodism. Holiness people emphasized Christian perfection, the idea that a person could be entirely cleansed from sin or sanctified, a moment often accomplished during an altar call, which meant that the moment was not just for the damned, but also for the cleansing of the saved. At the altar, holiness people shouted, trembled, and wept under the transforming power of the Spirit. When it came to creating music that encouraged revival, Pentecostals were, from their birth in the early 20th century, overachievers. Pentecostalism is notoriously difficult to pin down. But in the United States, it can be defined as a form of revivalism born out of late 19th century Wesleyan holiness revivals, religious practices of the enslaved, and a host of other influences. Early interracial Pentecostal meetings transgressed social and legal boundaries. Black and white Pentecostals laid hands on one another, prayed for divine healing, prophesied, and spoke in tongues, although the movement resegregated quickly in the early 20th century. At many holiness and Pentecostal revivals, they tarried, which involved waiting for power and inspiration from the Holy Spirit. At every meeting, they sang.